All right, we are back. RDs versus BS, the podcast takes YouTube. We are talking today about our third episode about Insta-fads, which was when we looked into hair gummies and fit teas, those detox teas you see all the time on Instagram. So today we really wanted to dig into these hair gummies because they have all these different ingredients that are claiming they're going to delay the onset of grays in your hair, that it's going to make your hair shinier and longer and stronger, all of this different stuff. So today we're going to look at the ingredients we didn't quite get to in the podcast and just talk about the claims and what science shows to be true. So Marie, want to start us off with the Hum hair gummy?
Yeah, absolutely. Alrighty, so like Emily said, we're going to break down two of the different gummy supplements that we kind of briefly touched on in the podcast. We're not going to go over the fit teas because I feel like I talked that to death on the podcast. So if you want to go check out the podcast, I have a lot of information. So the first supplement that we're going to look at today is the Hum hair gummy. So I have the supplements fact up for you guys to take a look at. So I'm going to talk about four of the ingredients that we didn't really get into on the podcast. And those are vitamin B12, folic acid, PABA, which stands for para-aminobenzoic acid. And I'm not going to say that again, so we're going to call it PABA from now on.
Let's stick with PABA.
Yes. Yeah. And FOT, which its full name is Polygonum multiflorum, which again, I will just be referring to it as FOT from now on. All right, so vitamin B12. So what is the company claiming vitamin B12 does for hair and, you know, how it makes your hair luscious? Why would they put this in a hair gummy? All right, so the company claim from the website is B12 deficiencies can lead to hair loss. B12 assists in the production of red blood cells, which carries oxygen through the body and the follicles, which requires adequate amounts of oxygen for healthy hair growth. Okay, so what is the science of this? We actually have a pretty good understanding of vitamin B12 and, you know, what it does in the body, what happens if you're deficient. And I would say yes. I mean, this is a very accurate representation of the importance of vitamin B12 and one of its main functions in the body. But, you know, one thing to kind of keep in mind is that unless you are deficient in vitamin B12, adding vitamin B12 to a hair supplement is not going to make your hair better. It's more a situation of if you're deficient, your hair quality will be worse because you don't have that vitamin B12 that is going to produce enough red blood cells, which is going to be able to carry enough oxygen to all over your body, including your hair. So it's kind of like, it's not really directly related to hair health. It's related to overall just body functioning health, because if you're deficient in B12, your red blood cell count is going to suffer, and therefore a lot of body functions are going to suffer, hair being one of them. But if you're not deficient, adding B12 really isn't going to do anything. However, I will give this supplement this. So they are claiming this to be a vegan product, and you are actually at the highest risk of a B12 deficiency if you're a vegan. So if you are vegan, I would normally recommend a B12 supplement anyways. So I do actually think that this is a really good product or a really good ingredient to put into a vegan hair supplement. That one actually makes sense, but if you're not a vegan, if you're eating plenty of foods that come from animal sources, you're probably not deficient in B12. It's probably not necessary.
Sure.
So
how much B12 is in this?
Good question. There is 850 micrograms, which is 15,000% your daily needs.
I was gonna say that's a ton.
Yeah, but vitamin B12 is water soluble, so it is okay to kind of eat that in excess. I'm not like super concerned about that. So the next ingredient I want to touch on really quickly is folic acid. And the claim from the company on this is regular consumption of folic acid helps tissues in hair, skin, and nails grow smoothly and cells function properly. So similar to B12, I would say, yes, absolutely. Folic acid is something that's pretty well understood, and how, its purposes in your body and how being deficient of it can impact you. But similar to vitamin B12, it's really only going to impact your hair health if you're deficient. So if you are deficient in folic acid, it might be beneficial to have folic acid in a hair gummy. It might actually help your hair. If you're not, probably not going to make any difference. And folic acid is in a pretty good amount of foods. It's found in leafy greens, most green vegetables in general, nuts and beans. So I would say if you're getting plenty of this in your diet, then you probably don't need a folic acid supplement, at least in the context of hair health. But some people don't like their vegetables, some people don't like nuts, some people don't like beans. If you're not eating a lot of these foods, maybe it could be beneficial for you. You might not be getting enough folic acid in your diet. Now we're going to get to the fun ones.
FOT.
Yes, you want to do FOT or PABA first?
FOT.
FOT.
I'm so curious about it. I've never heard it before.
No, I hadn't either. Okay. So the company claim on this one is used in traditional Chinese medicine for hair growth and color boosting. It supports increased circulation to stimulate healthy hair growth. The science behind this one. So it was really hard to find academic journals that talked about this in the context of hair. I basically didn't find anything talking about FOT and hair graying.
Is that its main thing? Like they claim that the FOT will delay onset of graying?
Yes, and in the context of hair, but there's just so many other things that it claims to do that most of the clinical trials are based off of that. And sorry, not even clinical trials, just like case studies and academic journals. So I will say, so when I hadn't even heard of this before. So before I started looking into the literature for it, I just kind of looked it up. And I just want to read this because right off the bat, it's sort of like setting off some alarm bells for me. All right, so a summary that I found about FOT states, FOT is considered to be an energy tonic. Traditional Chinese medicine practitioners believe it can help restore the color of graying hair, combat premature aging, and offset erectile dysfunction. It's also used to treat headaches, muscle soreness, high blood pressure, tuberculosis, diabetes, cancers, infertility. Traditional Chinese medicine stresses the importance of harmony between opposing but complementary forces in your body, yin and yang. Practitioners of traditional Chinese medicine believe that disease results from an imbalance in these forces. Okay. So
it's a cure-all.
Exactly.
Does everything.
It's always a huge red flag when it's like this cure-all. And I don't want to be disrespectful of traditional Chinese medicine. And I know for some people culturally, like the yin and yang concept is really important. But that's not, as scientists, what I would consider us like Western scientists, that's not how we decide whether or not something is efficacious based off of its yin and yang, which is not something that can be like proven. So, I'm very wary of any chemical that claims to have such a wide-ranging benefits, and I'm wary of anything that, the cited evidence is that it's balancing your yin and yang, frankly, from like a scientific standpoint, that just doesn't cut it. Again, that's not any disrespect on anybody who practices that kind of stuff or, believes in that kind of stuff, but, we sort of require a certain level of clinical evidence to tell somebody to take it. That's what we're here for. So looking into like the actual literature on this, not great things to say. There are
negative things?
Yes.
Or just not think, oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. So a 2020 review and again, this actually wasn't looking at anything related to hair. This was looking at a lot of those other claims of like cancer and hypertension and all that kind of stuff. And it has shown a lot of individual cases of liver damage. I found, like, if you go do an academic search of FOT, everything that comes up is liver damage.
That's scary.
Yeah, it is scary. And, it's scary too because there's only 15 micrograms in this supplement. And I tried really hard to compare that to supplementation in some of these other case studies. And, maybe this is like a way lower dose or something like that. But because it's a Chinese herb, there's not a lot of regulation over dosage. So I couldn't even compare it to the dosage of people that had liver problems associated with this. So I have no idea if it's a lower dose, a higher dose, the same dose. So again, like that just gives me such pause. The fact that I can't find any academic literature saying that this is helpful for hair. The academic literature I am finding is saying this might give you liver damage.
Not great.
Not great. Like not
good news.
I think a lot of times we're like, it might not work, but it might not hurt you. Like, I just don't think that that's the case for this ingredient. I can't even like confidently tell someone like, oh, worst case scenario, you're just wasting your money.
Right. It's kind of scary.
Yeah, I just have no idea. The statement by the National Institute of Health regarding Chinese herbal products, including pho tea, is because many studies have been of poor quality, no firm conclusions can be made about their effectiveness. Again, I can't in good faith recommend that anybody take this because there does seem to be so much, I don't want to say evidence because everything I looked at was just case studies, but there's a lot of cases of liver issues surrounding this supplement. Not this supplement, not the hum gummy, the ingredient of pho tea within this supplement.
Yeah, I just wish we knew how much people would typically take that would cause liver damage. Like, is it the same amount in the hum? Is it 100 times that? But it's just, like you said, it's not well documented. It's just, we don't know.
So that is pho tea. So sorry, Emily, we're 0 for 1 on keeping your hair dark.
Shoot, I need it. You can't tell. They're all hidden. I have gray. I need some pho tea or something that works and doesn't cause liver damage in my life.
Okay, maybe PABA will give you a little bit more.
Oh yeah, my last hope.
Yes.
PABA.
Okay, so the claim from Hum is PABA helps maintain natural hair color and ward off grays by improving the body's ability to break down protein and use it more efficiently, a crucial factor in producing healthy hair. There was actually a systematic review in 2020 that looked at a bunch of anti-graying treatments. And so they looked at like 21 studies, and of those studies, 5 of them were specifically PABA supplementation. Okay, but the studies reviewed that were for PABA, these are the years that those studies were from. 1941 to 1981.
Oh, bad sign.
Yeah.
The most recent one was 40 years ago. Like,
yeah. The most.
Why? So, I wonder why.
I don't know. So, yeah, a 2020 review, the most recent one being 1981, not great. And for context, it's not like they were just looking at older studies. There were some 2015 studies for some of the other therapies. So, it's just that this hasn't been studied in a really long time. It's kind of fallen by the wayside. Between the 5 studies, anywhere from 21 to 35 of participants reported that their hair was darker after supplementation. So, it does seem that there is a little bit of clinical evidence that for about 25% of people, you might see a little bit darkening in your hair. Okay, however, the amount of PABA supplemented in the studies, again, there's 5 different studies we're looking at. The lowest was 200 milligrams and the highest was 24 grams. And the Hum supplement that we're looking at has 15 milligrams.
Oh, man. Yeah, that's not going to cut it.
So barely anything. So like just a fraction of a fraction of a fraction of the smallest that has had clinical studies done on it. So already I'm kind of like, is that enough to do anything? Or are they just throwing that in there to be like, look, we have this ingredient. And then another thing too is participants noted that their hair reverted back to gray as soon as the supplementation was discontinued. There really haven't been any long-term PABA supplementation studies specific to hair, but so the question of whether or not it has any long-term effects if you take it for a long time, we really don't know the answer to that. The conclusion of the 2020 systematic review said, with the validity of these studies in question, it's unlikely that the vitamin supplementation truly impacts hair repigmentation in the absence of severe vitamin deficiencies. Due to the absence of more recent and repeatable data on vitamin supplementation for gray hair treatment, the use of these vitamins is not strongly supported solely for the use of gray hair reversal. So, it's kind of saying we don't have a lot of great evidence. We haven't studied this in a really long time. You know, obviously, you can't tell by my like raggedy hair, but like my hair is not my number one priority. I've never dyed it. I've never like spent more than $5 on a haircut.
Oh, you're lucky.
I think being a swimmer, like I just always threw it up in a cap. Yeah. And then I just...
Your hair's wet more than it's dry when you're a swimmer.
Exactly. So I think it's one of those things that it was like, it used to be popular. It's not so much. We don't have, I mean, I would say that this is better data, certainly better data than the faux tea. But again, I just wouldn't say it's necessary because best case scenario, like 20 times the dosage that they put in this actual supplement might help. But then as soon as you stop taking the supplement, your hair goes back to gray. So yeah. I'm sorry, Emily. I would not recommend this Hum supplement for you.
Just have to keep dyeing it, I guess, like the rest of the world. Oh well. Oh well. So that's a wrap on Hum. What are your thoughts?
I think that if you are someone who is at risk of vitamin B12 deficiency or folic acid deficiency, you might get some hair benefit out of supplementing those, but I would just say get a vitamin B12 supplement, get a folic acid supplement. Those are really easy to find on their own. And it's just, I'm more confident telling someone to just take those separate and not take the PABA and not take the faux tea and just not risk it, you know?
Yeah, I agree. I'm with you there. We ready to move on to our second hair gummy we're looking at today? Cool. All right. So I'm looking at Ollie, and this is another one we talked about, you know, in the podcast. And this Ollie hair gummy had a lot of other interesting supplement or ingredients in there that I wanted to look at and say, why did they add these? Do they actually work? Like, what are we working with here? There is biotin and zinc, and then right under that is keratin. So Marie, when you hear of keratin and hair, what's the first thing that comes to mind?
Strong hair. I
just think that's good. As I'm asking you that, I'm realizing you just said you're not a big like doing your hair person. But there is a treatment that a lot of salons do that's called a keratin treatment. Oh. And that it's just funny to me because I never really heard of keratin as a supplement. I'd heard of it as this hair treatment, but not actually ingesting it. Again, like you said with the faux tea, I really couldn't find anything that was about keratin supplementation and hair. There was one thing, the NIH did say that it's likely to be safe. So they've at least studied the safety of it. And the Mayo Clinic said that doses up to 10 milligrams have not been shown to cause any negative effects. It should be noted that this supplement does have 25 milligrams. So, you know, it's more than that. I mean, I think it's more of a theoretical thing. Like theoretically, if you take keratin, you have more keratin in your body. So it would go into your hair and make it stronger. It just hasn't been studied. You know, they do show that the keratin treatments, like on the outside, it does help smooth your hair and strengthen it, all of that stuff. But orally, just not there yet. It's likely to be safe, but we just don't know. So that's my disappointing end to my research into keratin.
That kind of reminds me of collagen supplementation because people say it's really good for your face and all that kind of stuff. But and again, like I'm not an esthetician, so please nobody take skin or hair advice from me at all. But like I've heard because when you ingest a protein of any kind, your body's going to break it down into the individual amino acids. So I've heard that there's more an effect of like putting collagen straight onto your face so like your skin can absorb it versus taking it orally, because when you take it orally it gets broken down and like how much of that is actually being rebuilt back up into actual collagen that's then going to be deposited in your face. I feel like it's probably a similar concept. Like it probably like why not just put it right at the source where it needs to be versus like trying to go through all these pathways and like maybe end up there.
Yeah, definitely. And Interesting that you say that, because the next thing I was looking at is exactly that. So it's called amla extract. Basically, like, it's shown when put in your hair that it does have an effect, but not so much when you ingest it.
Yeah.
Again, kind of disappointing. So I think that's just with a lot of these ingredients, that's the case. And what we can learn from that is that when you put something on your body or in your hair, it's very different than digesting, because digesting is a crazy process with all these different things happening. And it was found to be likely safe to ingest at this amount, so 25 milligrams. So at least it's safe, unlike, with the Foti where it wasn't safe at all. So again, I mean, so far we've done keratin, amla. Both are like, well, there's no research that would relate to taking it in a gummy. So a little disappointing there.
Yeah. Hopefully you have some better news for the next two ingredients.
Yes. Well, okay. So the next two, they list horsetail extract and then they list silicon. So I'm going to go through those flipped. So I want to go through the silicon first, because the horsetail extract contains silicon, and that's pretty much its whole thing, is that it's a natural way to get silicon. Now, it's one of those words that you say a bunch and it's like, am I saying this right? Silicon. We're going to go through that first. Silicon. As far as hair benefits go, it's been suggested that, higher silicon content in your hair results in a lower rate of hair loss and increased brightness. So I did find a study where there were 50 people between 40 and 65, and they took a form of silicon that it says CH-OSA, and that stands for choline stabilized orthosilicic acid, which is silicon basically, but it's a very specific kind because silicon itself isn't very bioavailable, meaning it doesn't get absorbed that well in the body. So that's all the studies I found had this very specific kind of silicon, but that's not what is in the supplement. So that's something to note. These things that they're studying, it was with a different form. Participants saw a significant improvement of the fragility of hair and nails when they took the CHOSA. And then there was another study, same amount. This one was with 48 people. Same stuff. It's the CHOSA, so that specific type. So what they found, actually, when you look into it, was kind of funny. They said that in the placebo group and the CHOSA group, the elasticity of the hair decreased in both groups, but in the CHOSA group, it decreased less. And then same with break load, so it's like ability to break. So these are just people whose hair is really declining, and the CHOSA is helping it decline slower, which that is positive. That's good. With both of those studies in mind, they haven't really shown that silica helps reverse hair loss, because it doesn't, but these two studies may help prevent breakage. Again, not a ton of people, 50 in one, 48 in the other. And it was just, mitigating the losses in the one, instead of saying it actually increased your strength and all of that. But in general, not a lot of research. It seems likely to be safe, but as far as, does it actually work? It might, at least with the hair breakage, but not too much out there. So I wanted to save horsetail extract for last because it's basically a plant that contains silica. So I wanted to talk about it because now we know what silicon does and what it is. So horsetail, it's another, traditional medicine. It's been used for thousands of years as an herbal remedy. Horsetail, it hasn't really been used traditionally for hair, like so many of the other things we've seen today. Wanted to look into the studies. Is there anything with horsetail and hair growth and all of that? So I was doing research and the only studies I could find were the ones that we talked about already in the podcast, where, there were 60 women who had self-perceived hair thinning. And they're in this 3-month study where they take this supplement called amino mar C, marine complex. And, with this, it's not just horsetail. It also has vitamin C and B2 and L-cysteine, L-methionine. Like, it has a bunch of stuff in it, but it's the only study I could find that even looked at horsetail. So, whatever the findings, is it the horsetail or is it the other stuff in the study? It's hard to say. So I wasn't super satisfied with that. So I kept looking and I said, is there any other study out there with horsetail and hair? And I found another, but it was the exact same product that they were studying. And this was another one, like the faux tea you said, it's been found that horsetail is possibly unsafe to take. So again, this is another thing where we can't just say, well, it might not help you, but it won't hurt you. Like, it is actually possibly unsafe because it contains something called thiaminase, which basically breaks down thiamine. So you could have a thiamine deficiency potentially if you took too much of this. So is it worth it? Like, I don't know. If it's possibly unsafe and there's not a ton of research saying that just this stuff helps with hair growth strength, I don't think so. Yeah, the research just isn't there. And the stuff that is there, it's not just on horsetail. So yeah, I'd probably stay away from that one because it's possibly unsafe. And why risk it? If there's not an actual benefit out there, why risk it? So I mean, those are the 4 kind of strange ingredients. Yeah, in summary, I'm not super impressed about what I found.
It seems like for yours, they took a bunch of stuff that's helpful in a topical form and they just put it into a pill.
Right. I agree. And that's, something to keep in mind. Just because someone says there's research behind this ingredient, it doesn't mean there's research behind this ingredient actually being ingested.
So it sounds like we don't have a good product for not going gray, and we don't have a good product for not breaking our hair. Should we stamp them?
Yeah, individually or together. They're pretty similar.
I was like, we're probably gonna do the exact same.
Yeah, I'm gonna say BS. Like it sounds for both of ours.
Yeah.
Like it's them taking studies out of context and just randomly like, well, this helped in this specific situation, so I'm just gonna put it in the hair gummy and tell people there's science behind it. Like, that's kind of unfair to the consumer.
It's not that quick fix that people want.
Yeah.
I'm struggling to think of alternatives because I don't feel like there's a food alternative I think overall, if you are having a balanced diet that includes a bunch of different vitamins and minerals, overall you're going to have better hair, better skin, better nails, just because you're giving your body what it needs to grow properly and function properly and divide cells properly and all that kind of stuff. But there's not one thing that you can eat, again, unless you're deficient in that, that's going to really help. And then anything outside of that is way out of my area of expertise. So my thought right now is being alternatives, go get hair dye. I don't know,
Right.
Go consult someone that works in hair, not us.
Yeah, next time you get your hair done, ask them, because if it's beyond the nutrition stuff when it comes to hair, I'm the same way. I don't know.
Yeah. Say my absolute favorite YouTube channel told me that these gummies didn't do anything. What are your suggestions?
Yeah, what can I actually do? Yeah, I agree with what you said. It's not very satisfying, but just don't be deficient in anything. Eat enough protein and eat enough fruits and vegetables so you get all the vitamins and minerals you need. Drink enough water. And that's kind of all you can do from a nutrition standpoint.
All right, well, we've thoroughly disappointed all of our fans here today.
Sorry, everybody. But if you know, I mean, for me, like we're talking beyond nutrition now. If you know anything I could do besides just dyeing my hair to get rid of those grays, let me know. I'm open to it. I'm open to it. Awesome. Well, thank you all for, bearing with us through all of the research and not so great findings today. But yeah, stay tuned for more podcast episodes, more YouTube episodes coming out soon. And if you ever have anything that you're curious about, want us to dive into, just reach out. We'd love to hear from you. All right. Well, until next time, everyone, stay healthy and don't let the BS get the best of you.